All right, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Good to see ya. My name is Paul Trani. We're going to dive into Photoshop Masterclass. We're going to talk about mastering all the presets and all the stuff that's at our fingertips that we can take advantage of, right? The things that are already made for us that can make us better. I'm into that. Just feel free to chime in, say hello. Would love to hear how you're doing. Hopefully the music is okay. Sometimes some songs are louder than others. So there we are. Okay, fantastic. I see you, Aria, Colby, Michelle, everyone. Good to have you here. Again, my name is Paul Trani. I'm going to dive into shapes, gradients, styles, patterns, swatches as well. All brand new presets available to you for you to use. Hey, Ayla. It's been a while since he was here, hasn't he? I'm here every Friday, just so you know. So I haven't been around during the week, though, to your point. So, but it's good to be here now. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm gonna just kind of show you briefly, everything we're going to talk about. So creating, importing shapes. We can make our own shapes, load those in. We know we have CC libraries. We know we can capture shapes as well, and I'm going to talk about that as well as we go along. Making and using all these awesome gradients as well available to us that we could also make. Styles, which I don't use a lot of, but are really beneficial, and I'll show you some cool examples of that. And then also creating patterns. And creating a lot of this stuff actually with Capture is what you can use as well. They keep adding new features to Capture, Adobe Capture on your phone that you can go ahead and take advantage of in Photoshop as well. So, all right. Thank you, Aria. You're too kind. I like to keep it calm and chill. It's morning for me, and I'm not a morning person. I'm not going to lie. I am not a morning person. All right, but I do love Photoshop, and that's where I'm at right now. Just a blank document, right? What did I do? Just kind of filled it with a color, right? You get the idea. I typically never do this, and we can talk about starting with swatches, right? Swatches panel has been updated, has all of these fun categories. I typically don't pick a color and fill it this way if I wanted to fill the background. The problem with that is if you go into and change your canvas size, I'll change the height to 5,000. What happens is you end up with this transparency. So rather than using the paint bucket tool, which I very rarely use, I literally just used it this morning to show you this example. So rather than doing that, what you want to do is add a new solid color is what you want to have. You want to have a solid color. Maybe I'll shift it a little bit different color just so you know what it looks like. A solid color background rather than a pixel-based background. So this is vector and this is a pixel-based. So now, and in fact, let's just get rid of that one altogether. When I change the size, it's going to scale with me as I make this 5,000 pixels, right? So that's pro tip number one for you. Oh, Gina, here. This is from myself and Gina and all the other non-morning people out there. Yes, Aria, you're with us as well. Cool. Curious where my night owls are. I'm definitely a night owl. So that's what we have done so far. But let me get out of this boring screen and show you what we have. These are all brand new presets that we could take advantage of. And I actually might even use... I'm gonna show you how you use each one of these. We'll get into actually making something legit, because right now we're just changing colors. But you can see you have swatches. I was already using these swatches, right? And by the way, let's just close this up. For a lot of these, I don't really look at swatches this way. Look at this: RGB, CMYK, grayscale. Yeah, I get it. Pastels. I don't read. What I've done is I'll take a lot of these. And I will actually bring them into one folder, right? I just don't like having everything in separate folders. So you could reorganize these any way that you want, right? I don't need that to say pastel. Don't make me go to a light folder. That's an extra click I have to deal with. Let me just pick the color that I want the way I want. For these pure ones, they'll go right up here. And that's how I'll start to organize all these. But the fact that we can organize these is hugely beneficial now, which is new in... See, dark and darker. Ugh, too many. Too many colors, almost. Yes, you can have too many colors, I believe. All right, so right in here, taking all those folders, and I'll just throw those away, just like that. Now I have Paul's folder of colors, right? Which works good enough. Again, all I do is just jump in. I can change this color all I want just by clicking these. And since I have that as a solid fill background, it's going to work out just fine. Let's try to grab that and make that smaller. Ugh. So. What's up, Eric Sue in the house? All right, so gradients, by the way. Absolutely love gradients. I'm going to actually kind of work on maybe bringing in an image or something. Let's see what we have here. Ooh, this is a nice one. All right, let's do this. Sure, we have that solid background. I want to fill that with a cool gradient. So, a couple different ways we could do. We go into select, color range, pick that background color, right? And I can add or remove from it. And adjust the fuzziness as well. But I'm basically going to add a gradient to the background really fast. So bear with me. Add that layer mask just like that. You can see it masks her out. But what I want to do is do the inverse of this. Invert. Add a... Let me fix this really fast because I know it's probably going to bother you. Going into select and mask. Let's clean this up a little bit. Really fast because we want to make this look cool. We need a cool image to make. The cool thing about the gradients, you have to love the gradients. Tim, you like the new textures? That's awesome. I like the new textures too. I always think it's hard to find a use case for using some of those textures. I find I don't need a lot of repeated patterns for whatever reason. Okay. Oops, wrong way. Undo. We want to remove. There we go, much better. Pardon me as I clean this up. Almost too much there. Let's undo that. Let's undo that. Let's undo that. Wait for it. This is a pretty large image, so it's kind of struggling, it seems. Come on, undo. Yeah, we got to give it a second. Sorry. Let's just bring some of it back. Wait for it. It's doing lots of calculations as I even kind of drag over these pixels. It's selecting all of these different colors. So sorry about the misclick. I think I accidentally dragged across. And I've come to find that, I don't know, I feel like my... select and mask workspace gets a little finicky, and I haven't quite figured that out. Might have something to do with my my video card or something. Can't quite figure that out. Okay, so bear with me. Wait for it. It's thinking. Wait for it. See, when I click, it actually gives me these residual pixels. This is not very helpful. See, look at that. Residual pixels. All right, so apologies. Cleaning that up. Subtract. Okay, there we go. I thought that was going to be a little faster than usual. Anytime you're actually selecting something and there is a background color, well, you want to come down here and you want to decontaminate colors. Check that. And you can adjust that using that slider. But it's going to make it so you don't actually have a yellow halo. All right, with that done, here's our woman. Now we can apply a background to it. We already did a solid color background. We want to go to gradient, right? Selecting gradient. We can pick this gradient or a number of gradients that I already have loaded up in here that I'm picking accordingly, right? Yours probably might not look like this, right? Because if we open up our gradient panel, this is how I've squared it away. And Tim, I think we were talking about this as well. We were talking about all the gradient folders. This might have the same issue as well. So your gradients do the same thing. You can have your favorites. So I might have all of them and then my favorites. My favorites are currently these pastel colors right here. Kind of really into these pastel colors like that. Okay, but if you group them all together, it just makes it easier to see if that works for you, right? We have those different folders we can work with. So let's take a look at our... Why can't I shrink this down? Wait for it. There we are. Let's pull out this gradients panel. There we are. Zoop. There it is. Since this is a gradient fill layer, I can come through and click on these all I want to change the color. We know gradients are pretty hot right now, which is why I'm going with gradients, because I'm into it. I remind you of Sam Rockwell. Interesting. I don't know if I've ever gotten that before. Really into these pastels. So that's what I think I'm going to use, just some nice soft pastel colors, right? Let me show you something else. Yes, you can. Thank you, Tim. You can bring back the photographic toning ones. Notice how they're not in here. If you go into this flyout menu, go down to Legacy Gradients, select Legacy Gradients, twirl that down, and you'll see them all in here. I actually have grouped a lot of them. I could have swore I actually did that, but maybe it was on a... Maybe I'm losing my mind. But you were talking about the photographic toning are right here. So yeah, this is a folder that maybe I want to keep up here above this Legacy Gradients, but we're able to see those photographic toning gradients as well. Tim brings that up because you can, let's just take this. Let's just take this as our example, quite frankly. Photographic toning. We can go down here to gradient map. See this right here, gradient map. Select gradient map. And this is currently the properties for the gradient map. This is the default gradient that it's selected. So I could use any one of these, and it's going to be electric. Unless you get into this photographic toning, these gradient swatches, this is what we want. We want to be able to have some nice photographic toning. I typically like the ones that are have a little bit of blue and then shift to a nice sand or orange color, and you can see what it does for this photo already. And again, just so you know, right down here, it's gradient map is what we did. So yes, you can have your own, let me move that off. You can have your gradients, you can load up legacy gradients like I just showed you, organize those accordingly. And again, typically what I would do is I would take, man, I swear I already did this. You have to trust me. I've already done this. I don't know why my settings didn't get saved, but that's what I would do. I would take all of these and put them in one folder. Just give me one folder, right? One Uber folder that has everything, right? This makes it just easier to work. And this is a lot about optimizing Photoshop so you can work faster, right? That's our whole goal, is to work quickly. And that's what presets allow you to do. Let's grab this. There's some nice pastels. A lot more variety in these legacy gradients like that. Cool. That's done. Oh, I missed simple. Why not? Bring those up too. There they are. You get the idea. And now we can move on after I click OK. I swear I did this already. I swear to you. All right, so we have our defaults, we have our legacy, we have our photographic toning, which kind of deserve their own category, and then we have Paul's favorites. We can apply these to a number of things as well. So what do gradients become? Gradients, because you could do 1,000 things with these gradients. We know this, right? So if we just type in Nikoma. We'll go with Nikoma. Hopefully it's okay that I use your name, Nikoma. right? I can click based on that text right there. I can click on any gradient that I want. A lot of times people will go in here and they'll click on gradient overlay and then they'll go to it. Well, you just don't need to do that. It really is just a matter of clicking on the gradient that you want to add, like I'm doing right now, right? So that looks pretty good. Nikoma, it's looking pretty sweet. Let's play with this a little bit more. I think we might go all caps with this as well. Let's make this larger. Let's put it actually... There's a number of things we can do here. I want to get fancy with this. All right. Going into the new properties panel. The properties panel, especially with text, everything you need is in this properties panel. So you don't need to worry about going to the characters or the character or paragraph styles. Just click on what you want, change it, maybe go through and pick a different font in this case. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. Scale it down. For a design like this, I would actually get a little fancy. I would probably do maybe some in and out stuff, like maybe the text might be underneath her hands, but over the top of the rest of her, right? But there we have it nonetheless. Okay, we have our gradient squared away. So yeah, you can, oh yeah, sorry about that. Let's totally dive into playing with this gradient some more, quite frankly. That's what I want to do. Here's my gradient map. Remember, I have this. Turn this on. I have this other one as well. Wait for it. Oh, this mask is killing me. You know how you have those days? What is that? That's horrible. Look at that. That's horrible. We need to clean that up desperately. Wrong way. Undo. Remove. Thank you. Was that so hard? Was that so hard? No, thank you very much. Decontaminate colors. I probably selected the wrong layer is what happened. Nonetheless, we have that background. We have this text here. Let's dive into changing this some more because maybe these colors are a little bit too close. Okay. Pardon me as I try to shrink this panel up. I want it to be thin and just nest it off to the side. All right, fantastic. We have this gradient fill right here. I could double click on it. This is the background again. We have a couple different options and options that you're probably not even used to using, by the way. But right in here, I can say, hey, let's make this radial. Of course, it's going to come out from the center. Still looks cool. But you also have angle, which is going to start with one color and travel all the way around to the end. Why would you use angle, right? Well, let's take a look at an example of why I think we would use angle, okay? You ready for this? We are going to be making shapes. I have this ellipse tool. Let's just go up here to the top of everything. We will turn off that text so it's not too confusing. We're going to draw a circle, and it just created this shape. Anytime you draw with one of these vector tools down here, it's either going to make it a shape or it's going to make it a path or pixels. So it's kind of up to you, right? I have shape. It's set to fill. In fact, let's change this color because we want this just to stand out. And we're going to turn off the stroke, right? And now we can see what it did. In this case, I actually want to add to it. You ready for this? With this circle still selected, I'm just going to create a cool shape. I'm going to go right over here. And what I want to do, I want to subtract the front shape. Oops, hold on. I don't want to select that yet. Okay, you ready for this? Subtract front shape is selected, okay? Now I can come in here. I want it to be a little bit off center, drawing that out kind of like so, and then it obviously subtracts that front shape. There's different ways to do this. Okay, we can do we could have multiple layers, and we can merge vector layers to get results like this. But this is a case where I'd probably come in and say, hey, you know what? Let's give this a gradient, one that's a little bit more drastic, right? We can see it here. Let's double click on it. And this is a case where I would change this. It might be kind of hard to see, but I would actually change this to your angle, right? So it's going to start with one color that's kind of over here. We can rotate it, by the way. There's that line that I was talking about. Because what I want to do in this case is have this moon shape start with this deep purple over here and then end with the brighter color kind of up here, okay? But I've adjusted that gradient. I can always go in and even make this even more drastic, as I'm going to do right now. Heck, let's change this to yellow. You get the idea. We have that shape kind of curving, and the gradient goes along with that curve. Cool. Click OK. Fantastic. All right. Can I show the in and out stuff? I don't know what you mean, Anita. I don't know about... Oh, the in and out stuff. Oh, with the text? Oh, yeah. So I was mentioning that earlier. What you'd have to do in that case is you'd have to have a new layer. I would take this layer, and let's just turn off everything else so we could see it. Right, in this case, I would actually even delete that layer mask. Man, that's weird, isn't it? Isn't that weird? What happened? But in this case, I would use the quick selection tool. Go and grab her hands, like so. Mask it out. That's its layer mask. Turn on that layer. And then we have the background. And let's remember these are her hands. Body. Here's the text. Nikoma. Like that. And it's just these little details that really take your designs to the next level. So by putting the hands in front and that on bottom, you can see that we just have this nice like overlap. And I could always clean that up a little bit, because right in here, I could have done a little bit better job, but hey, I used the quick selection and it wasn't the perfect selection tool. It's just called the quick selection tool. Let's fix this really fast. Bam, bam, select. There we go. Boy, she has some rough knuckles. She's also a boxer. I don't know if you know that. She is a boxer. Fantastic. There we are, right? Probably even add a little shading there too. Right, so that's the whole in and out that we'd want. Even having text behind. So let's do this once more. Bah, bah. Shrinking this down. Right there, wait for it. I have a great question for everyone. Just give me 1 second to turn that off and shrink this text down. Like that. Get rid of that gradient overlay. Wait for it. Wait for it. Make that a little darker. There we go. Okay, so. Sweet. Yeah, she's really a boxer, can't you tell? No, she's not, man. All right, so this is a legit design. I would say it's like pretty legit, right? There's like 1,000 other things we can do to this. We can get into design of this, because I would want to, with all these bright colors, I'd want to brighten up her, but the tones were picked correctly. So when it came to using those gradients, I was kind of taking, even subconsciously, I was taking hints from her skin tone, right? Which is kind of fascinating. Yeah. So let's kind of move on from there. I'm going to save this because this is looking pretty good. Let's save that. Here's another one. Let's actually just kind of fast forward. Here's another version as well, made all with gradients, right? You can see some of these fun gradients. I got a lot of colors in here. And not only that, what we did is we took this gradient fill, since I was talking about her skin tone, use that gradient fill, which happens to be just this color, right? It's just a nice peach. And then we're just changing the layer blend mode to something that kind of works, right? Because we're just kind of getting rid of that hardness, that sharpness from her skin, and having some fun with it. All right, cool. Okay, so let's move on. Here's a big question for you. Ready for this? You ready for this? Let's just benchmark this. Let's put it aside. Bookmark it. I mean, let's go to just something different. Let's see what else I have. Let's try this. New design, different color. I have some text. It says, wait for it. Let me just pick. All right, wait for it. Wait for it. Just throwing together a quick design. We're going to make this italic, right? So that's kind of fun. Zoop, zoop. Mahadi, hopefully you don't mind that I actually used your name. Hopefully that was okay. Let's get into something a little bit more tricky. And then I want to get into all the fun shapes that we have available, right? So that's what we're setting up next, all right? But we want to have this, something like this. Let's take this, make it larger, just so we can all see it. There's 3 different words here, okay? And maybe there's a shape as well. I don't know what it is. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's something else. There we go. This is how you spell Mahadi's name. Just work with me. Because basically what we're doing is I have all these different text layers. I can come in here and based on what we know, we can open up this and we can pick a different color, something that will work with this, right? We can add that color, right? We can go for that same, we can select multiple layers, click and add those like I'm doing right now. I can select all these and use that same gradient, okay? Click, click, gradient. Okay, but what if I wanted to have this gradient for the whole group of elements? I want it to all have one solid gradient rather than starting and stopping, starting and stopping, starting and stopping. I want everything to go from yellow to green. Okay, how would we do that? And there might be a couple. There actually is a couple different ways. I'll show you how we would do that. I will not wait for people to answer because I'm going to get into it anyways. I would group it all together. And this is now the logo or phrase or whatever right over here, right? Then what we could do is we could do a number of things. This is probably what I do. In all honesty, I would come in here. I would use the gradient tool. I'd have that gradient selected, right? And then I'd draw out the gradient at the angle that I want because I really like this flexibility of just drawing out the gradient that direction that I want it. Then you just add that as a clipping mask to that logo folder right over here. Yeah, we could do the new Pantone color too. I can't decide. I'm not. I mean, blue. Blue is my favorite color, by the way. Like blue is my favorite color. But I'm just not that excited about the color of the year, if I'm being honest with you. Cool. Zaid knew what I was doing. So what we do is we just group that, go ahead, and overlay them with a gradient, right? Another way to do that is if I turn that off, clicking right in here, adding that gradient overlay this way, like that, okay? The only thing with that is like I have to use this little angle thing to basically control its angle, but you could do it that way as well. So whichever way you prefer, whichever way makes it cleaner for you, whatever works for you is really the goal. All right. Notice how this overlays, by the way, that this layer. And as we go in here, if we take a look at that gradient overlay really fast, guess what? We can add another gradient overlay. So adding a second gradient overlay, we're just going to make this one a little bit more simple. It's going to be black. Actually, let's make it white. Click OK. Let's make this one black. We now have this white to transparent gradient that I just overlaid on top of it. Okay. And in this case, I want it to actually come from, I want this side to have a nice highlight, like there's light coming from this side, okay? So I added that new gradient, and then I can just change this to something like overlay, right? And now, look, this has more depth than what we had before. Yeah, I know it's supposed to be a calm. Blue is a calm color. Like, I get it. It just doesn't excite me as a designer. Like, and I totally get where it's coming from. 100%. It just doesn't, like, it doesn't, I don't know if it inspires me. You know, that's all. And I guess its goal isn't to inspire. Yeah, it's like if chill out became a color, then that's what it would be. You're exactly right. And I'm like, I want to create cool things, you know. Oh, by the way, check this out. So I'm clicking on this. I happen to have a color fill. You could actually take this. You ready for this? Let's try this. Take any one of these gradients, drop it right on the layer that you're working on, and watch what happens. Did you see that, Tim? Technically, by the way, this background is just one solid color. It's just one color. Like, I double click, I change the color. I can change this from a color fill layer to a gradient fill layer just by grabbing the gradient and dropping it on that layer, right? That's all I'm doing right there. You get the idea. And again, I think that's pretty cool. That's probably something you would not you probably wouldn't notice unless you're hanging out with me. So I appreciate you being here and hanging out with me, right? Let's flip that. Boom. Design Mahadi by Mahadi. So for Mahadi, we want to bring this to life. Yes, thank you, Eric. You nailed it. Blue has been overused for years. It's in every corporate logo. And that true blue reminds me of like IBM. It reminds me of all these old tech company brands. That's what it reminds me of. Maybe that's why I don't like it. Okay, so we're going to spice up this logo some more. This time what we're going to do is we're going to go into shapes. Remember when there were just a bunch of symbols? Look what I have now. We have so many things in here. Cool. Yeah, I'm sure, you know, we've talked about it as well. So here we go. We have all these fun shapes that we get out to, because right now you're saying designed by Mahadi, and this logo's kind of, it's simple. But what we could do is we can make this look a little bit more interesting by adding a graphic to it. And what we have here is we have a ton of shapes that we can go with, right? We have people with some very strange emoticons that you could use, right? I already have Apple Emoji 1 font, so I would use that color font over any one of these. So there are these, but you could do that as well. Gradients, well, guess what? That's a legacy gradient. Just like with legacy gradients, we have legacy shapes and more. So that's what you do at this point. Load that up, boop. Oh, there it is, legacy shapes and more. Twirl that down, and you can see all these crazy shapes that you can use. So it really is endless. What I did is I just grouped them all into one. But chances are, what I need more than anything, let's delete this, is I need simple like arrows and triangles, so I don't have to make them from scratch, right? Like this element here. This is perfect. Let's take that. Let's drop it in here. Make it larger. There we are. There's our shape. Move that off to the side. Up. Here's my triangle logo. Oops. Let's pick a different one because that is hardly standing out. Go into shapes. Let's add something new. Let's add a fun tree. Here we have this tree. Take this tree, drop it in like so. Okay, so now I have an issue. Okay, you ready for this? Check this out. This is super interesting, by the way. I think this is fascinating. I first drew out this triangle frame, and I was like, how do I change this triangle? First of all, it was like a filled triangle. I could actually see that thing, right? Wherever it is now, right? It was a filled triangle, but it came in as just like an outline, right? And how do you fix that? You'll be looking around, you'll double click on it. That's exactly what I did. I was like trying to change the color. It's like, what's happening there? Well, get this, select this. This is a vector layer. Go to any one of your vector tools off to the side. And right up here, we can change the fill right over here like so. So it's actually selecting the vector tool and then going over here and changing it accordingly. Cecilia asks, can I make a shape from a brush? Make a shape from a brush that I created even though there's a texture in the brush. Yeah, you can make a shape from it. Think of it about vectorizing it. That's what you're doing, is you're kind of vectorizing it. So it's not going to it's going to be black or white. It's not going to give you all that texture. It's going to give you rough edges, but not all that textures. Cool. Right, so there we go. There we have it. Like, I can change this accordingly. You get the idea. I kind of actually did like I like this thin look right here. I just want to make it a little thicker. So bringing that up a touch. There we have this fun triangle that we can work with as part of our design. Okay, so I want to go beyond this because I definitely don't want to not talk about this. Ooh, so many things to show you. So many things. I better hurry up. Let's group these together. Here's a logo. Let's go to something new. Invert text. And Cecilia, here you go. Hope you don't mind. I'm just taking your name. Let's change the font. We got to mix this up somehow. But nothing too crazy. There we go. Let's make this all caps, all using the properties panel. Make this a little larger. You want to make text look elegant. Just increase the spacing between the letters, like 200. There we go. Okay, for Cecilia, I'm like, okay, I can go in here. I can use gradients. I could use my different swatches, and I can try to get something that maybe is kind of like a gold. Or what you can do is you can actually use swatches. Styles. There we are. Styles. Right. So here, check this out. Here I have a bunch of styles that I can apply. You might not have some of these. Some of these I actually made a couple weeks ago as part of this. As part of this masterclass. But check this out. I was simulating gold with a gradient, and look what I can do with styles. So that's why I was making this text a little larger in its own document. I have two different types of styles here, but you can see a number of them. So I don't want you to look at some of this and say, oh, I'll never end up using some of these. They're just too crazy. You can get some nice looks like this. This has like a brushed gold look for Cecilia, right? What does that entail? Well, if we take a look right over here, we could see it's a bevel emboss inner glow. It has that gradient overlay like we expected, but has a ton more stuff. And we could see each one of these as I go in here. And again, I already went over this a couple weeks ago as a part of a Photoshop Masterclass as far as making metals. It was all about making materials and metals. So I've already done this, but you could see there's a little bit of gradient overlay. I'll tell you what, if you go in here, let's go into texture. Texture right here, this is where a lot of that texture comes from. You can see it accordingly. A little bit of inner glow just to give it a little bit of brightness. A lot of times you're going to be playing with the contour, and that's what's going to give you the different valleys and peaks when it comes to making a metal, right? But there you are, Cecilia. And there's this new styles panel that you can organize all you want. So I probably want to make a new one that is metals. Like that. Take those two, drop them in there. In fact, I have these other two metals that aren't as exciting, but you get the idea. This one's really cool too. This all depends on the size of the text too. So when it comes to layer styles, you're gonna have to probably play with some of the properties, because the styles, the preset styles doesn't know the size of your text. And this happens to look better when you have more depth. Okay, so coming in here, increasing the bevel and emboss, the depth. Oh, here we go, size. There we go. Increasing the size. There we go. See how I'm adjusting the size? It starts to look, I think, a little bit cooler and a little bit more like metal. Cool? That's all from styles. Guess what? Right in here, just like we were doing earlier, we could load up legacy styles as well. But there's Cecilia. I feel like this needs a special name too. Wait for it. Adjusting to the size, taking this down. Adjusting the spacing. Auto. Pop. There you go. Cecilia of Arimathea. I'm applying this to text, but we could do this to pretty much anything that we want. Oh, I need to move on though as well. Hold on. Wait for it. Let's see what we can throw in here that's going to be awesome. I need something awesome. Oh, let's take this. Sure, why not? Dropping that in. Styles. Adding it. Changing like we were doing before. Changing the fill. Guess what? The fill doesn't matter. Shrinking this down. There we go. Little icon right up there at the top. Cool. Hit F a couple times. Hopefully you can see some of that metal there. Let's switch gears now. Fatima, good to have you here. Hello. All right. Thanks so much for joining me on YouTube as well. I see John and Femi and Vandalidino and Genesis. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on. So pretty cool. We've created some pretty cool things, right? But we're going to take it to the next level now as well. In fact, let's kind of recap what we've gone over. We made this. We did some pro tips. We worked a lot with gradients. I actually just showed how to make gold, and this is actually a preset style that I used for that. That's all that is. Don't believe me? Yeah, I can open that up. But again, go back, look at the metals, creating metals and materials. Live stream we did before, that one we didn't work with. We can see this one as well, designed by Nikoma, where we played with gradients some more. And then I was working on some other things as well, but we don't have time to get to those, do we? All right, so let's move on. This is what I want to do. Maybe what I want to do is grab some things that I've seen around, and I just wanted to dive into actually something new on Adobe Capture. So let's launch Adobe Capture. Go to my phone. Wait for it. There it is. So now what you're seeing is Adobe Capture just so you know. Shoop, there it is, Adobe Capture. Launching it allows me to create a number of things. Let's point this as something where I'm not giving away sensitive information. There we go. Even though that's no fun. But we have shapes, types, and materials. Materials is, of course, going to be 3D that I can capture. I can capture type. So if I wanted to capture this type, it's just kind of coming in here, capturing this type. Even if it's actually not type, it'll give me a font that's closest to this text, just like that. Type, done. It saves it to my Creative Cloud library. So I'll move this over. All this stuff is going to appear right in my libraries panel. Right in there, okay? Ooh, Jacob Light. Ooh, I love that font. Right? That's the font I want to use. It's just called Type 1 or Fun font. I just call Fun. Okay, we get that. You guys probably know of Adobe Capture, but I want to go beyond that too, by the way, because I have shapes in here as well. Since we were working with preset shapes, what if I wanted to grab this like wine glass or something? Click. Grabbing it. And what it's doing now is you can actually grab, it would usually just do black and white, but you can actually grab color shapes now as well, okay? So I could erase some of this that I don't need. Let's increase the size of this brush, get rid of some, because I just want to focus on, and I could actually crop it. That's what I need to do. Let's just crop this down, like that. Was making life hard on myself. And then we can go back into refine and start to remove. You get the idea. It's actually making a certain number of colors in here that I can add to or remove from. Oops. Let's undo that. Boop. Actually, let's undo that too, because I like that little bubble there. But I'm just creating something quickly. It's grabbing color shapes, as you can see. I can add color to it as well. So right in here, just case in point, I can select that, that taupe color and paint in more of that taupe on this side. So hopefully you can see that happening. Done. Adding color to this. Obviously, you can simplify or simplify even more, because maybe I just want this basic shape. I'm kind of into this even more basic shape like this. I kind of like that. Click done. Since I know it's vector, by the way, I can change it when I'm in Photoshop. So this is our champagne glass. Champagne glass. Hopefully I'm spelling that right. I might not be. And by the way, that's only some of, that's just the latest thing. So we talked about colors as well. We can come in here and usually it's set to color. So let's switch that back. So this is capturing color, but notice right up here at the top, right up here, that little icon right there, that will change it to gradients, right? Gradients are coming soon, not yet supported, but let's just switch that to gradients, and now I can adjust this accordingly. Let's just get something like that. There we go, something like that. Nice and smooth, capturing it. It captures that gradient. I can adjust each one of these as well. You get the idea. Saving it, gradient to, save. Right. It's being saved accordingly. We have looks, we have patterns. Patterns I didn't even get into. Good thing I have time. I knew I didn't get into it yet. That's why I saved it for last. But here I can capture a pattern like I'm doing right now. Saving this. Even the most boring thing can look cool. Saving it like so. Right? So that's what I've done. Let's get rid of that. It's being saved to my CC libraries. We could already see it right here. Let's take a look. Boom, there it is. Just popped up, that pattern. Right? Let's take some of these things that we just talked about. Here's my shape. Let's actually double click on this shape. Nothing's happening when I double click on it. That's a letdown. This one actually might be from earlier. Oh, that one is from earlier. I apologize. Let's get rid of that. Right in here. Here's the champagne glass, right? Let's just do something like that. There we are. You get the idea. Okay. I'm not doing this design any justice because this is like a different look entirely. Okay, so let's kind of go on. You can see the gradients right in here. This is what I mean when I say that gradients aren't supported just yet. Because as you can see right here, if I double click on it, it is just... Wait, hold on. Ah, I lied. Ah, this is so exciting. Ziad, is that right? Samuel Alvaro. Check this out. Look at this. I have this blank layer down here, right? Here's the gradient. Clicking, it adds it as a gradient fill. So now that is available, and this is the gradient that I just made. Here's another gradient. So I actually grabbed these gradients. You can see it right here. Oops. I grabbed these gradients from my room, and then I can adjust accordingly. So that is so cool if you are in a cooler environment than what I'm in, because it's very just like an office here. But you can go ahead and use those gradients now. Oh, that's so exciting. All right, you get the idea. Fantastic. Gradient is now available. Maybe these gradients aren't doing it for you. I think Tim challenged me to use patterns in my designs. That's what I'm going to do now. Last thing, patterns probably are the one preset category that is like the most exciting, I think. It's Ziad. Got it, Ziad. So this is going to change the look entirely. So I'll just make a new layer. I'll click right in here, and you can see what it does. Changes the look entirely. Let's turn off some of this text. There we go. Perfect. Let's take this to the next level. You ready for this? I don't know about you guys, but I use the quick selection tool all the time. Okay, so let's do this. There we go. There we are. Cool. All right, Tim, there you go. Changed the entire look of this just by using a couple of patterns. Let's get rid of this gradient overlay. Apologize. There we are. Bring that up here. And bring up the hands. Cool. Change the entire look, but look at how perfect this pattern is, by the way. So if we take a look at this a little closer, here's my pattern fill. I'm going to double click on it. Notice how it's scaling it at 100%. Obviously, we can control that as well, right? Here's something even cooler that you can do. You ready for this? This is, again, we can scale that. Look at how good that looks. Wow, look at that. Look at how awesome that pattern is. Love it. Right? I like it a little larger. I like that pattern. Let's go with it. Saving this file because it's looking so good. We're down to my last minute. More next week because there's actually something else I need to show you when we get into paths and actually how you can change these patterns. You can even apply a pattern along a path as well, which is really cool. But thanks so much for watching. It's kind of coming down to my last minute or so. Hopefully you appreciated this. I just encourage you to check out all the new presets And most importantly, really customize them so you can work faster. And see what you can find out there. There might be some cool patterns that other people have made, so you could probably do some searches and load up your Photoshop so you can work faster and, create cooler stuff quicker is the whole goal, so we can spend more time watching Netflix, I guess. Cool. All right. Felicia, I'm always glad you're here as well. Mahadi, thankful for you. Hilda, thankful for you. I apologize, I can't pronounce everybody's names. Daniel, Genesis, Arthur, Susan, you guys are great. Just feel free to get in touch with me through Instagram, PTRANI, or Twitter if you have further questions. Paul Trani there. Alvaro, you're the best. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tim, for always helping out. So good that you're here with us as well. So, more stuff coming up soon, just so you know. So just hang out at, coming up very soon. We got more stuff happening, so just stay with us. Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful day. Really appreciate you, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Thanks so much.